Ghost of Tsushima, Trapped, and Sabotage. This is Staying In.
Can I just say how proud I am of everyone here?
Okay, thanks.
That I think
Good start.
That I think after over 100 episodes, we are finally learning how to podcast properly.
What do you mean?
I mean, you're getting carried away here, I think.
And I think we should be proud. We should pat ourselves on the back because the last two episodes, we created a very tense cliffhangers to the episodes of what was going to happen when I spent £40 of Pete's money.
Yep, that's true.
And this episode, we're hopefully going to bring the thrilling conclusion to a cliffhanger that we left at the end of, well, not really at the end. We're still like, that's a bit we've got to even out, is where we actually put the cliffhanger. Because really it should go to the end.
It's taken us over 100 episodes to discover a cliffhanger.
Yeah. Now we just got to now it's another 100 episodes to put the cliffhanger.
We just got to put it on the cliff edge.
Yeah, in the right place. So in the last episode, we had a hilarious debate about where to put eggs, and the day after, Peter Willington of this parish BCC'd us all into an email. Which was sent to info@britishegg-industry-council.com. This email isn't as long as I thought it was, so I'm happy to read it out verbatim. Hello there. I was wondering if you can help me. On the next episode of the comedy podcast I'm part of.
Well,
subjective.
Yeah, well, I didn't want to say it's about games and that, but by the way, we've been talking about eggs.
We're going to be talking about eggs, and specifically how to store them properly. He continues, I live in the UK. No chemically treated US eggs here. So you were buttering them up there, weren't you, really?
Yeah, definitely,
You
yeah.
knew how to push their buttons.
And I've always assumed that the correct place for eggs is the cupboard, rather than the fridge. But the abundance of fridges with dedicated sections for the storage of eggs suggests that they may be better off there. Some cartons of eggs also ask customers to put the eggs in the fridge for freshness, but don't state that they categorically must be kept there. So I was hoping that the British Egg Industry Council would have the final word on the proper storage of British eggs. Should my free-range boilies yet to be kept in the fridge?
No, hold on. It's should my free-range boilies yet to be.
Oh, right, sorry. Christ. Hopefully they read this a bit better than I did. Should my free-range boilies yet to be kept in the fridge, or is a plain old cupboard absolutely fine? All the best. Peter Willington, video games producer / podcaster.
Yeah, I should have removed that last bit.
I was just thinking that, yeah.
My career is now jeopardised.
So when we started planning for this episode, we all put in details of what we would like to talk about, because there is planning involved. We got that bit right quite early on.
Yep.
And all Pete's put in is the word eggs. So I'm hoping that this email has borne eggy fruit.
I mean, I think we can all agree that Pete spent his leave very productively.
I just like the fact that, when he put in his diary, email British Council of Eggs, he went through with it.
I'm not knocking about. We have these public services available to us. I pay my taxes like anybody else. I want to know what the egg authorities have got to say. So I think I could have put eggs and then another topic, which would be how a BCC works, Kris.
I do apologise.
Now, Kris, what you did is you just replied and said, well, now I have to keep it in the edit. And then get Outlook for Android. I don't know why you're sort of repping that stuff at the moment. But luckily, lovely Sarah from the British Egg Information Service.
Oh, so sorry. Did that email go to the info at the Egg Council?
Of course it did. Of course it did, because Right.
Oh,
So I was
click
I was
and
just
reply
like,
all, Chris. Come
I was
on.
outside.
I was
Rookie
walking, I
mistake.
just saw it on my phone. I thought Pete was running the email past us. I didn't think he would CC us into what is a very important
he
email.
didn't.
I didn't, Chris. Anyway, right. So anyway, Sarah from the British Egg Information Service (brackets BEIS). This basically, she got in touch with us and said, "Thank you for getting in touch in regards to your query. For optimum freshness and food safety, eggs should be kept at a constant temperature below 20 degrees Celsius. To avoid the typical temperature fluctuations in a domestic kitchen, we recommend that eggs are stored in their box in the fridge. For more information, please visit Egg Storage and Handling page. I do hope this has helped and that you continue to enjoy your yet-to-be-boiled eggs from the fridge. Kind regards, Sarah." So thank you very much, Sarah, for sending us that reply, because honestly, I always thought, and that basically, that opens up, and obviously she did provide an excellent link to Egg Storage and Handling, a great, honestly, a fantastic source of how to properly store and, handle eggs. Not only that, there was also a fantastic link in their bio to the British Lion Eggs Instagram account, which obviously I'm now following, and it has 62,000 followers, right? Which, I mean, that's incredible. Like that is genuinely amazing. I wonder
what kind of things are on there, Pete?
Well, okay, so there's lots of different columns of stuff. They've obviously got your basics: lunch, brunch, dinner, what you can do with eggs. But then there's also just really nice photos of eggs being used in all sorts of different dishes. And actually, I thought, this is going to be like a little bit naff. This is going to be the sort of thing that they sort of chuck out to an intern who's from like the local secondary or something like that. But actually, it's beautifully shot, and I've now got into the idea of maybe thinking about trying out some more egg-related dishes. So you know what? I think my tax money, I assume it's tax money that pays, I don't know. But I think that's money well spent. So well done, British Egg Information Service.
I think there is. Hopefully, Pete's enjoying some of the satisfaction that I felt when I was in. What age are you when you're in year 4?
Is it 9 or 10? Is it?
Yeah.
No, 8 or 9, isn't it?
8 or 9.
Young.
Yeah, I think
Young.
Yeah, young. Because when it wasn't year 5. When was it? Year 5? Yeah, year 4. Year 4. It was in year 4. Because when I was in year 4 as a kid, I ran up to my teacher, Mrs. Potter, and I said,
"No, this isn't real.
Sorry.
This story isn't real."
Yeah, I mean, did she invent like Peter Rabbit? And
Immediately, you've looked around your room and spotted a Harry Potter book and went, Mrs. Potter.
and I went to her and I went, what does all this funny writing mean on the outside of a pound coin? And being the great teacher that she was, she didn't just give me the answer, because I assume that everyone knows now.
she said, "Go away."
No, she said, "Well, why didn't you write to the banks and ask them?" So as a very precocious 8/9-year-old child, I hand wrote letters to, and it wasn't like, and I didn't do it to like, the Coin Council of Britain or anything like that. I literally wrote to my high street bank.
That's amazing.
I thought you were going to say like the Chancellor of the Exchequer or something.
Yeah.
But I like that. I that feeling of getting in touch with like a big governmental body or like an important authority on a subject and getting a nice sort of personal response is there's a little bit of joy in there.
Yeah, there's a little bit of joy of like somebody actually took the time to respond to a nice question, which is like, it's lovely. Oh man, so there we are. That's the so basically, I guess, listeners, if you've got any questions about any other sort of food stuffs that you'd like answered from British councils related to those things,
we've got it in.
Let us know, and I'll do the research.
How are you guys?
How are we?
I actually haven't spoken to you all that much about last week, so how are you doing?
Oh dear, I had a week off. So I'm well rested. I've seen England's steepest residential hill. That's what we did on our holiday.
That's the most caveated attraction.
Yeah, I know. It was like,
bucket list. Ticked.
Yeah, well, that was at the top
Britain's
of our holiday.
steepest hill. Actually, well, it's not Britain's steepest hill. It's steepest residential hill.
In England.
In England, yeah.
Yeah.
What's the hill called, Pete?
It's called Vale Street. I assume people will be flocking to it soon.
Oh yeah, you sent like a picture to us of just the signpost of Vale Street, and I was like, is this something I should know?
Mate, 22 degrees. 22 degrees.
Was that the temperature?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it was quite warm and muggy. The steepness of it was super steep, so steep, and it's an amazing place. In winter, they have to chain their cars to their houses because they slip down the hill otherwise.
Oh my god!
Which is just an amazing idea. But had a bit of a break.
Well, me and my wife, we left the house today, which is brave.
Marvelous.
We went to a food. You know where we went for my stag? What was it called? The Shambles in York.
The Shambles in York.
Well, we didn't go there, but we went to a place which is kind of like that, which is like and it was in this covered market, and had loads and loads of. Next time we're all together, we're definitely going to go there because it's kind of like it's one of those places where you don't have to worry about finding a particular food that everyone will enjoy and space for everyone. It's kind of like there's Thai, there's Chinese, Korean, Indian, Mexican, etc., etc., etc. And we had the most delicious Penang curry and pad thai.
What's a Penang curry?
It's like a Thai red curry. It's sometimes called.
Ooh, is it like spicy?
It's like a spicy red curry, and it's flavored with like holy basil.
Oh, okay, that sounds quite nice.
So quite fragrant.
Yeah, it's gorgeous. It's currently my number one top curry.
You say that as if like you write a blog online of like a constantly updated top 5 curries.
I get the feeling there is a journal somewhere.
I do actually on my phone. I do actually keep. I have Google Keep Notes, and at all times I have this list available to me. And it's my current, at the time of writing, top 5 video games, board games, movies, TV, and albums, and books. So
it's important.
But we did that today. I've also been playing Ghosts of Tsushima.
Interesting, because there's been lots of buzz around Ghosts of Tsushima.
Yes.
And it's just, I think we've all had it at different times with different games where you see the hype, you see all the clips, but for whatever reason, it just doesn't appeal. You don't get what it is that's such the appeal. And I kind of feel like that with Ghost of Tsushima because I know it's been hugely anticipated. And don't get me wrong, the visuals look stunning and it looks different to most of the games. Maybe it's kind of I've been burnt out on like open world games and stuff. Maybe that's what it is. I gravitate towards more linear games. That's why we've talked in recent kind of episodes around Last of Us. That's why I gravitate towards those games because it's more linear structure. And so it takes quite a lot for a more open game to kind of get me. Is that what it is? Kind of Ghost of Tsushima a similar kind of open game to like the likes of your Assassin's Creed, your Witchers, that kind of thing?
Well, in staying in tradition, having played the first 2 or 3 hours, let me now wax lyrical about why Ghost of Tsushima is currently better than any other open world game I've played. So, where to begin? I want to be quite brief because I haven't really played it for that long, and but at the moment, everything that it's doing is really impressing me. Because I stopped playing Assassin's Creed Odyssey because of Last of Us Part 2, and then I didn't feel like I could go back to it because of all the bad stuff that happened.
Yeah.
Especially surrounding that particular game. And so I thought I was kind of ready I played Donut County, and that ended up being like the perfect antidote to
such a good game.
The Last of Us Part 2 malaise, as I'll call it, having finished it. And so I was able to get Ghost of Tsushima, and it has made me realise all the things that I didn't like about Assassin's Creed Odyssey. The thing with Ghost of Tsushima is the Mongols are attacking the island of Tsushima, and you are pretty much the last remaining samurai, and you basically go on this vengeance quest to try and rescue your uncle who's been captured by the Mongol leader. And in essence, what you're doing is recruiting people, sort of building a sort of Magnificent Seven-esque style group of fighters and warriors to help you rescue your uncle. And the first thing that strikes you about the game is how powerful you start off as a character. And it's something that I've never really thought about in a game, and it's definitely something that irked me whilst playing Assassin's Creed that I didn't realise until I played Ghost, is that even though in Assassin's Creed you're meant to be this massive powerful figure within the world and a well-renowned mercenary, it still takes you about 20 hits to take down the simplest enemy and like reduce a health bar down to 0. Whereas in Ghost of Tsushima, you're a samurai. So really, you're killing people in one strike. And really, the technicality of the combat comes down to you actually timing that strike correctly. So the combat feels a lot more different in that way, that you're playing a lot more of a reactive game and a lot more like sort of standing back, now making your strike and just taking down an enemy in one. There's no like health bars or like, oh, this is a level 19 enemy and you're only level 8, so it's going to take you half an hour to chip away. If you get the timing right on any enemy, you can pretty much cut them down in one fell swoop, which is a massive departure for me in terms of like how I feel as the player. Like I feel like a powerful samurai. I was saying to Kris today, there's these wonderful moments where, because it's against the samurai honor to be stealthy and to kill everyone and like be undetected, and the game does kind of do a bit of an awkward job into being like, yeah, well, you still can be stealthy, and he's kind of like, but it's against my honor to be, but in this case I have to be stealthy. Instead, what you can do is you can walk up to the bandit camp, press a button and do a standoff, which is basically you approach this camp and you're going like, come on then, who's brave enough? Who's going to take me on? The camera goes into like a letterbox framing, it zooms around and puts you both into it. Suddenly you're in this like Kurosawa like standoff. And it does this very, very simple mechanic where you're just holding triangle, and then as soon as your enemy attacks, you've got to time it right. So you lift your finger off triangle and you'll do one sweeping blade motion and cut down your enemy. And then and then basically you watch all the other bandits like start to panic in fear. And it's kind of like wonderfully strange in a way, because you'll just be this guy, you cut this guy down on the bridge, and like the other day there were these bandits, and there are these like 2 regular ones and one like sort of like beefy heavy with a massive spear, and the 2 regular ones just started like pushing the guy with the big spear towards me, and it's like, go on, you take him next. And that experience is really, really addictive. It's a reason why I love Bloodborne so much, because that combat loop where it's all about timing rather than aggression, I find really, really satisfying. Like in Bloodborne, you're waiting just at the right moment to hit them with a shot and then parry, and then you do more attack in that way. Ghost of Tsushima is just like that on a very sort of a bit more of a simplistic level, but it has that kind of satisfaction to go with it. I'm currently playing it with Japanese subtitles on, subs not dubs, but that filmic quality of it is really, it does really feel like I'm playing like a Kurosawa, like samurai Japanese film.
What is it about Kurosawa's visual motifs that feels like it's being mimicked here? Like, because obviously Kurosawa was a huge part of what Kurosawa was about was the epic, right? Mm-hmm. So like seeing him, there's a scene in, is it Rashomon, where it just rains and rains and rains and rains? Yeah. Like, and it is just so overwhelming. Like the scale of his work was astonishing. Is that?
Yeah. So there isn't, from what I played as of yet, the scale really isn't in the people as it is more in the environments that that you're in. Like, Dan, what you're saying about the fact it looks amazing, it actually has quite a heightened realism to it. Like, it really feels like someone's just gone to the Japanese countryside and just turned up the contrast. Like, everything's like this bright, vivid, like colors, and when you're walking through fields, like all you get is tons and tons of petals falling over you. That's where the epicness comes from. Like, everything is a painting. Like, every corner you turn around, like the sun is like streaming through bamboo trees and like scattering the countryside in these like wonderful like images, and like there's fog like dancing across the top of the pampas grass, and like as you're riding your horse through this pampas grass, you'll just lean down and start to like run your hand through it. And the amount of effort that's gone into things like the particle effects and like the way like petals fall around you, that like even just doing like simple tasks feel cinematic and they feel filmic. And I think there's a difference between like going through Assassin's Creed Odyssey and enjoying it because of that you're exploring an environment, whereas in Ghost of Tsushima I feel like I'm having I'm watching a film, or having a like more of like a media experience. I don't know if that makes sense, but it really like tingles that part of me that I feel like I'm part of like a film, or like actually directing like a scene rather than exploring a beautiful environment. So yeah, it's really, really good. I'm having a lot of fun with it and really enjoying that. It does appreciate your time more. So there's like a fog of war across the whole map. So you kind of discover it as and when you feel like it and you want to. And there's no like way markers. You're directed by the wind. So when you set a way marker, the wind blows in the direction that you should be going. And if you ever lose your way, you just swipe up on the touchpad, and like a new gust of wind will come along. And if there's something interesting, an animal will just start floating in front of you. And if you follow the animal, it will lead you to somewhere like a point of interest, like a shrine or something that you've got to go and like a collectible that you got to. Or if you see a fox, if you follow a fox, that'll lead you to a fox shrine, which will give you a bit of... So everything about the world is kind of like imbued with this sense of trying to keep you within it as long as possible, like keep you held in this state of like being part of this massive sort of filmic production. It's good, and I'm making Kris jealous by playing it. So
I mean, I went to Greece.
You did go to Greece, so
yeah,
just in time.
So
as well.
that's his revenge.
Yeah, well, yeah, I went before that, and yeah, it was extraordinary. I did partly inspired and because of my love of Assassin's Creed Odyssey, and yeah, my partner rolled her eyes when I told her that like my favourite parts of Assassin's Creed were like the islands and the Cyclades, and that's where we went. And we didn't go because of Assassin's Creed; it was coincidence, but it did imbue that trip with like an appreciation, I suppose, of its mythos. Like I went to Santorini, which I didn't realise is where the myth of Atlantis stems from. In part, the only recollection we have of Atlantis in myth comes from Plato, and that's this entire kind of like mythical civilization, this lost city that vanished into the waves, is purported to be where Santorini was, or next to it, because Santorini is on the edge of a caldera volcano, and this volcano, when it blew its top, it was more powerful, I think, than the Krakatoa, and soil or debris from it washed up on the shores of the UK. It was that powerful, and there is, Plato talks about this civilization that once was there that was lost to the sea, and I, in the spirit of it, I journeyed across the whole of the island on quad bike, which was, and I'm not mincing my words here, it was basically a death trap on wheels.
Right.
Hired this thing. I never knew.
I'm trying to remember what you were like when we did quad biking.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that was in a muddy field for Pete's not stag do birthday thing. This was on the open roads in Greece, going across the island, where the health and safety was a bit lax. Like, to give you an example, I never knew what speed I was doing because the dial always showed 0. I never knew how much fuel I had because it either showed that I had full tank, 3/4 tank, or 0, and it just fluctuated wildly.
Brilliant.
I pulled into a petrol station and the guy who I'd hired it from gave it to me on fumes, basically. He says, you need to go and fill this up, which usually when you hire a vehicle, you get it with at least 3/4 of a tank, maybe. But I had nothing, so I had to find a petrol station. And I just pulled over to this petrol station, which the bloke had directed me to. And I'd been assured that the guy would fill up my tank for me, which he did, but I think he kind of put like a fag out and walked over, undid the cap. Bearing in mind, the fuel tank is right between my legs, and he undoes it, and it just like, I'm just looking at the fuel tank here, any naked flame, and he dropped in there, that's it. I've lost, the bottom half of my body, basically. Fills it up, and off I go. And just extraordinary, like golden beaches, some of the most incredible seafood in my life, wine tasting, and just the island hopping thing I loved. We did Santorini. We saw this incredible sunset from a car park because my partner had a nap, and we just made it there. And also this quad bike was a bit of a death trap because I forgot to mention the lights didn't really work. And leaving at night, pitch dark, where you're waiting for cars to come behind you because you're using their headlights to shine the way in front of you. You don't really want to take your chances when you're going on those very treacherous mountain roads. But just extraordinary. And going to Paros and Anti-Paros and then Mykonos, which is essentially like full of Instagram influencers in the summer, where it's just people taking selfies. But for the first time in my life, I got lost, truly lost. We got literally trapped.
Well, no, hold on a second.
Yeah.
Let's dig into that a little bit.
I can think of 2 occasions.
Are we at the point now where we can just put footnotes into, like, whoever's editing this will just do a little voiceover. Please see episode. Podcast.
Yeah.
I know what you're alluding to, the point where we slightly went off course when we went up Snowdon for my 30th.
Slightly.
And Scarfell Pike.
And then Scarfell Pike.
And didn't we get lost in York as well? For my stag do?
We did, yeah.
Yeah, we did. But what an adventure. But we got lost.
But so this was one of many times you've been lost. Go on.
But truly lost, Pete. Like we it was like you seemed, like, honestly, we kept walking and circling the same places. We go, how is this possible? It's like a small little village that we're in.
Yeah.
How? And because the walls are so tightly close together and they're all kind of white, kind of whitewashed and things.
Yeah.
It was just extraordinary. Absolutely incredible place. I can highly recommend it. And surprisingly populous, with but at the strange way, a kind of an eerie calm in certain places. Because of the current climate we're in, and I'm not kind of like playing down how lucky I was to be able to travel and to be able to make it into the country because of a very strict process of testing and all that. We didn't know if we'd get there, and we'd have to be expected to stay in a hotel for 2 weeks and not leave. And stuff. So it was a bit of a gamble, but it was extraordinary, absolutely extraordinary. And I'm looking forward to going to Tsushima next year, where instead of using a map, I'll just follow the animals and the wind.
Follow the wind.
Yeah. Oh, I will say this, actually. Sam and I did an escape room the other night.
Oh yes, we did.
Yeah,
we did.
So when I say escape room, we were on our feet in a room, moving about it.
Yeah.
And I hear you thinking, how is that possible? Because as we talked about in previous episodes, escape rooms are one of those businesses that sadly has struggled because of COVID, with many of them moving online. And we talked about all those great online escape rooms that you can do, some free, some paid.
Yeah.
This was a game called Trapped. Trapped escape room game packs, and this one's called the Art Heist.
Okay.
And it comes in this lovely little cardboard packet / bag. And everything is in this box. There are no apps. There's no sitting around a table, although I will get onto a bit how we solve this eventually. It comes with a whole series of items, and on the back of those items, it tells you how to stage manage it, how to position it in a room. So you will get an item and it will say, put this on a coffee table. Or you'll get something that looks like a keypad with a little hanger on the top and it says, hang this on the door you want to escape from. And it comes with semi-adhesive strips to stick stuff on walls. And there was something quite lovely about us all set dressing the escape room and that feeling of, gosh, this is what it must be like when you're running your own escape room. Thinking very carefully, if I put this here, that looks quite cool, because this particular one that was sent to us by the Fantastic Factory, sent us this. What I like about that is that you make certain decisions about where you position things, but also because you want to fit into the theme of it. So we were thinking, weren't we, Sam, about, okay, let's make this thing like an art gallery. We spent a while thinking, okay, we've got these paintings. Where's the best place in your living room to make it feel like an art gallery?
So one of the ones was, as you said, like we had like the Do Not Disturb style hanger that we put on my living room door. That was like our escape panel, and then above the light switch was a little like fire escape sign. So we put that above the light switch. So it felt like immediately like we were in some sort of officially sanctioned health and safety environment. It was part of it for me was, it was great just like wandering around with these like little bits of paper and card, and like because it was in an art gallery and they were having like this gala event.
Yeah, like
an
exhibition. Yeah.
We were like putting like invitations on coffee tables and like putting notes and like almost like discarded napkins on windowsills. It was really like dressing it was like felt like this is part of the experience.
Yeah.
Like making your room feel like this other room in another world.
And we dressed ourselves a little bit because it came with,
we did, yeah.
And every game that they do in this series, and there's a couple others that I found, they come with little bits of props just to add that little bit of spice there, a little bit of, a little bit of a touch there. It's not like when you're in a murder mystery, it's set in the 1930s, I better go to the charity shop and buy a feather boa or something like that. We just had little name badges that clipped on, and suddenly we were employees of this art gallery, and we had our name, we had how long we'd been working in the company for, this kind of stuff. And that's quite lovely because, like, the beautiful thing about those kinesthetic escape rooms where you're on your feet is that you've instantly got blind spots, which you don't have when everything's on the table in front of you. And quite often we were thinking, oh gosh, did we get everything down? Because, Sam's living room is a normal living room. It's not like a sparse, minimal, empty white box studio space like in the Tate. So, quite easily we could have lost stuff, particularly if we felt we dressed it so well that everything blended in. Like I stuck one 6x4 picture over an already existing 6x4 picture they had in a frame. And in the corner of your eye, you wouldn't spot that. And it does those things that escape rooms do, where you have to go around, you have to solve the clues and find the code. But unlike an app, or unlike an escape room where if you're struggling, you just go to the app and you go for the clues or the hints, or usually in the escape room, we all just stand in the corner and just wave at the camera for a hint. You don't have that here. What you have is a really lovely old school thing where you've got a code book and it's full of words, these random connections of words. And then you have this kind of code breaker, which is just a simple piece of card that has apertures cut into it. And when you put it over a particular number, as allocated on the back of the particular card, when it says this clue, instantaneously you get a series of words that become a kind of a sentence or half of the clue. So it's a very quick way of just getting that hint system where you don't have to go into an app. If the Wi-Fi had gone down in Sam's place, we could have still played it. If he had no power, we still could have played it. If we'd gone camping, we still could have played this game. And it's reusable. And there was just something quite lovely about, you can make it as thematic as you want to be. You could go the whole hog. I could say, okay, Sam, Lisa, because Lisa did it with us, wait outside. I'm going to dress everything. I'm going to put on some art gallery heist music. It's a very niche playlist from Spotify. I'm going to do everything for you, and I'm here with the ground rules. I'm going to treat it like an escape room. Don't remove anything. Leave everything where it is, stuck to walls, that kind of stuff, and then leave them to do it. And that'd be quite nice, But what we did,
Kris can then go have a nap or something like that.
well, no, like what we did was quite interesting because it trusts you to time yourself, like a lot of these escape room games. And at the end, based on the number of players, not based on the number of players, based on the number of clues you access and how long it takes you get certain points. But it's quite interesting that we weren't that strict with ourselves in terms of house rules, because the game's not strict. It wants you to have fun. It wants you to interpret it and enjoy it how you want to. And what happened was that slowly but surely, after a few minutes, we started taking everything down, and it slowly migrated its way to the table. So we essentially recreated that tabletop escape room experience. And that's quite interesting because we solved the puzzle in 25 minutes. Now, admittedly, this particular one, Art Heist, is pitched as a medium in terms of difficulty. There is a hard one, which is the bank job, which I would be really interested in playing. But I think a lot of that ease by which we found it was because we had everything in front of us. We had no blind spots. I could literally pass stuff across to Sam or to Lisa across the table, and we had our notepad there. And it was a lot easier. It wasn't like, the escape rooms we've done in the past where one of us is one bit with their hand on a button and they can't take it off it. The other's through the doorway in another room describing stuff they see. And a third person is just calling out the numbers they see on the screen to match what's being pressed there. We weren't all in separate places. So I think that, I think if you want to get a game like this, you should embrace that kinesthetic aspect of it, of moving around the room. And, forgetting clues are there and go, oh my gosh, yes, we didn't think of this. Yes. Well done. Good.
I think that the fact of making the space become something and making your kitchen become a bank vault or an art gallery is exceptionally imaginative. And I can imagine that if you've got young kids, this is just a really good idea to kind of instead of saying to a child, right, we're going to sit at the table now for an hour plus while we try and break this. Don't worry, we're going to have fun. It's more look around the kitchen. Can you see anything different? Can you see anything new that we put there? That how it would spark the imagination in someone a lot younger,
and a kids party or something.
Yeah, and I think that even though we found it quite simple, we all were we really enjoyed it.
Yeah, we really did.
We really enjoyed just wandering around my living room, finding things, picking up stuff, discovering how all of this connected into each other.
Yeah, and I think also if I was to set it up for you and Lisa, Sam, I would be a bit mischievous. I'd hide stuff in stuff, so it becomes as much a treasure hunt as an escape room. And it is a family game. It says on the box it's pitched at families aged 8 and up. Yeah, and there are different difficulties, and I quite like the fact there's that little bit of different components. It's not just the same kind of clues repeated, that from what I can get. So, for example, in the carnival escape room that they do, which is the easiest one, you get a little duck hunt thing, when you're shooting at the fair and they're on these little stands and there's a puzzle there to be solved with them, say, for example. And it didn't feel like one of us was quarterbacking. We were all on our own, doing our own bits of solving the puzzle and then swapping with each other. And I all felt that we all pitched in and we all solved it together, which was really nice.
The table that Kris was speaking about has a lot to answer for. Well,
what? That sounds very threatening to your table.
Well, let's just say that.
Is this your new family / gaming table?
Yes.
You can prioritize one of those words in front of the other if you wish.
It is a table.
It is a table, and I cannot confirm neither deny that the reason that we bought that table was specifically to play one game, and it's since put us back around £500.
Hooray!
Yay! Because we were playing. I was teaching. Well, Lisa and I, my wife, we were playing the game Sabotage, which we were kindly sent by Fowers Games.
Is this the one where you have a bunch of cards and you have to figure out who the sabotager is?
No.
I really like how Pete kind of condenses games down in the most kind of eloquent way. Is that the one with a bunch of cards?
He's a man of the people.
Yeah.
We're not going to be getting on anyone's boxes anytime soon with straplines, are we?
So Sabotage is by Tim Fowers and Jeff Krause, and art as ever by Ryan Goldsberry. I mean, if you've seen a Tim Fowers game before, you'll know like what the art style looks like. And it's very interesting for a game from especially Tim, in that Kris has interviewed him. I feel like we're on first name terms.
We're pals now.
Yeah. I mean, I'm glad that you've actually been speaking to him, Sam, because I made a fool of myself. I literally gushed and fanboyed over Tim Fowers in an interview with We're Not Wizards on their podcast, which wasn't edited sensitively whatsoever. I just come across. I just come across as this utter fanboy.
Rich just absolutely stitched you up like a kipper.
He did.
I
He
love
really
it.
did. Like we talked about Ryan Knizia like last time. Like for me, Tim Fowers was the first name of board gaming that I was I became aware of his games, and I adore Burgle Brothers. And what I really, the first thing I said when I sat down with Sam was like, "Oh my gosh, this is like this feels like it's in the Burgle Brothers universe."
Yeah, it does, but in a way, it's not in the universe. Is that if you were to collect all of Tim Fowers' game on a shelf and sort of find one way of summing them all up, is you probably use the word something like economical or appreciative of space, in that he has always been someone who designs boxes that are very easy to like put on a shelf. And like the Burgle Brothers box, like every time I open it, I always forget how stuffed it is, and it literally just explodes with like tokens and wooden bits and like everything he, not only his games, but how they're packaged and how they're designed, like the amount of detail that he puts into that is like, there is no wasted space. Like, for example, Paperback I've got is like comes in this box, and at first like the cards don't all fit in. You think, oh, there's a bit of wasted space. But if you sleeve them all, the box is exactly the perfect size. It's incredible that it needs to be. Like, he's wonderful in that regard.
It's like the Marie Kondo of board gaming.
Exactly. So then on my doorstep lands Sabotage, which is this huge box. Like, it is nothing like you would have seen from like Tim Fowers before. Like, in terms of box size, it's like Brewcrafters big. Like, it is like a Euro game.
Yeah, it's the size of your average toolbox.
Wow.
Yeah. and it also opens up like a toolbox. But the thing is, and this is like the genius in like his sort of design, is there's a reason why this box is so big, because this is a hidden movement game essentially. And I think we've all played a hidden movement play, like Whitechapel, possibly we've all played that one. And the idea of hidden movement games is it's usually one person is playing a character. So in Whitechapel, you're playing Jack the Ripper, and none of the other players know where that player is at that current time. So they're effectively trying to hunt down and guess where that player is before they like commit murders. However, in Sabotage, you're playing this hidden movement game where one team's the spies and one team's the villains. And the spies are trying to disable the doomsday machines, and the villains are trying to basically knock out and hit the spies. But in order to keep that movement hidden from everyone, you use the box as a screen. So the box unfolds, it like peels open, and like an envelope, and basically becomes this wonderfully decorated screen that sits between the two teams, so you can't see what you're doing on each side of the
So does it kind of screen it like you've got like Captain Sonar does, that kind of?
Yes. So, but unlike Captain Sonar, which essentially is just a couple of sheets, a couple of dry white pens, and the rest of the box is filled with this massive game board, instead the box becomes the screen. And then inside the rest of the box, you have these trays made by Game Trays, which essentially hold all the components that the spies would need. So you lift this tray out of the box and you hand it to the spies. And then there's another tray in there, which is sort of identical, has a few different tokens in it. And you lift that tray out and you hand that to the villains, and that's all the things that they'll need to start playing this game. And it is a exceptionally smart piece of like board gaming design. So I've played this which is also quite rare for me, pretty much every way it can be played. So I've played it on my own. They developed an app for it, which simulates half of the encounters. So you play as a spies, and the app simulates the villains doing all their stuff, trying to stop you as you're like these spies coming in and hacking around. And I've played it as a 2-player cooperatively. So that the aforementioned story, me and my wife were playing it on the table, and we both turned to each other and went, "This table is not going to be big enough to get 4 people around. Plus this game, this is a lot of game." My wife knows me very well, and she knows the buttons that she needs to push to get me to buy things for the house. And we've also, I've also played this as a 2-player, but competitive. So me and Kris have played it, Spies vs Villains, and then as a 4-player as well. So 4 people all sat around my massive table, and it feels like a real treat to play, and I mean that in possibly like the confectionery sense of it, like the terms, like sitting down and enjoying a big bar of chocolate is a treat.
Yeah,
like something that is slightly overindulgent, but yet in every single way it's been designed to stimulate the right parts of you. Like that's what Sabotage feels like. Like very simply, you've each got the same map. You roll dice. One player rolls dice, and then everyone turns their dice to the same numbers, and then you, both the spies and villains, will then program their actions of what they're going to do that turn, and certain actions require certain dice rolls, and that's essentially the game. Like the villains will take their turn, hidden from the spies, trying to hunt down and find out where the spies are, like zapping squares, hoping that there'll be people in them. Whereas the spies move around, trying to locate where the villains are at and discover them, and also reach the Doomsday machine to try and hack them and override them and sort of disable them so the villains can't do their sort of dastardly plans. And yeah, it's a real treat. I think both Kris and I really enjoyed it.
I honestly, I love it because hidden movement as a genre is one that I always look forward to playing it, but I've never really played enough of them that I've enjoyed. Yeah. And partly that's because it's often mismatched in terms of the numbers. It's often like 1 against 4 or 4 against 1. I'm thinking of Spectre Ops. I'm thinking of Letters from Whitechapel.
There's one role that everyone wants to be.
Yeah, exactly.
and the rest of the table are just like, well, I guess we're just hunting them down then, are we?
Currently, my favourite one is Escape from the Aliens in Outer Space, but that's using cards, and that just captures that lovely theme of aliens. What I love about this game is it's 2v2, and the use of the dice, the fact that everyone is working with the same dice results, that is crucial for me, because I also own Hunt for the Ring, which is Lord of the Rings hidden movement game, which has got too much in it mechanically for a hidden movement game, and it just gets in the way of the fun and the theme of it. This doesn't do that. The fact that Sam knows what dice I'm working with, I know what dice he's working with, and I also have a list of the actions that he has a list of the actions that I can do. That's really lovely. And I like some of the agony of not knowing what to choose, analysis paralysis being taken away from me because it's determined by the dice. I can't feel bad if Sam's found me because I just didn't have the dice that go. It's not that I did anything wrong. It's just the dice weren't there for me. And you've got this lovely board where the tiles slot in. And I don't know what it is. It's just that sensation of doing it. Being able to slot stuff in means every time when you take it out, you don't feel that bad because you get the satisfaction again of slotting it in. The dice slot in.
I love the fact you spoke about that, which is like, because you get these boards which represent your character, and like as you're programming in your moves, because the idea is that you can't, if the villains are trying to hunt you down, you essentially can't then. It stops you like changing your actions in response to that. You have to program, I am moving left this turn, and because the villains move before the spies, if the villain's like moving in front of you, you can't suddenly go, oh well, now I'm moving up. Sorry now. So everything's programmed. So you slot these tiles in quite satisfactorily into these like little indented boards, and everything feels very like purposeful when you do it. Like,
and it always felt close, Sam. Like,
yeah,
suddenly Sam would go, "Oh, cool, here's your modifier cube." And go, "Oh, great, I've got a modifier cube, brilliant." "Oh, because this happened and this happened." "Oh, brilliant. Oh, great." And it's just, honestly, I was really skeptical because I really like, as Sam said, that compacted quality, the neatness of Fowers Games. Everything from now boarding to paperback and Burgle Brothers, and he really likes to dabble in different genres, but this was just great.
Yeah.
It just really was great. It never felt excessive either.
I've been obviously continuing the inspiration what Dan gave me.
all right, what do you do this time?
Well, Dan just seems to be my muse. Oh
my God.
I know.
What did I do? I don't even remember doing
Giving
this.
me the
Do you keep him locked in the attic?
I try to.
That's why that's why I've got nothing to do. He just lets me out to the garden once a week.
Yeah. No, just encouraging me to do the RPG stuff and all that good stuff. We've all been playing Basic Fantasy role playing game, which sounds very dull, but is actually very good. It's like one of the best games with the worst names, I've been. So we just came to the end of our little session that we've done, and we've sort of got to the end of our campaign, and I've been tinkering around with I've been making maps, and I've been.
This is what excites me about GMing, Pete, map making.
Map making. It's honestly, I've got two pieces of software actually that I've been tinkering around with, but the one that really got my juices flowing.
Your cartographer juices.
My cartographer juices. Is something called Hex Kit, and it's this thing. It's a piece of software by a company called Cone of Negative Energy, and it's really nice. It's a piece of. Well, I've talked about this before, but the most terrifying thing to me, I hate it, is a blank page. Can't stand a blank page. If you give me like every single color under the sun and a blank piece of paper, I'll just freeze because I'm just like, I could do anything, so I won't do anything.
Enter Dan.
Enter Dan, and him saying you should go, you can create your own stories and stuff like that. This was back years ago when we were talking about when we were running that small little RPG. Which
Dread.
one was it? It was Dread, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. That was where you said you had no imagination.
I had no imagination, and I think it is true to some degree. I've been thinking a lot about imagination and where it comes from. I recently finished a book called Freedom Regained by Julian Bigini, and it's all about free will and whether or not we have it. But one of the sections is about where does inspiration come from? Like, where do we actually get? How do things inspire us? How do we move? Where can that possibly come from? And one of the things I've found through reading that and through other bits and pieces is that I get a different kind of inspiration of like, I'm very iterative. Like, I always think that creativity comes from this space of, I will sit here and stare at this blank wall, and then I will, in my mind, I will create the perfect thing, and then I will jot down what that perfect thing is through art or through writing or through whatever it is that you can do. And actually, it turns out that, and some people do work like that, but a lot of people don't work like that. A lot of people work through just trying something and it's rubbish, but there's a core of something interesting, and then they rework it and rework it and rework it and rework it, and then it's halfway decent. And there was a lot of talk about that and where that creativity comes from. And for me, one of the things that I find is I need a jumping off point, and this Hex Kit has been exactly that. So we've been running this campaign, and I'm being very careful with my words because obviously you guys don't know what's coming next. But we've been fighting a lot of goblins. Dan has been rocking up very late and then falling into pits because
I think you're fine.
Because his quote unquote,
I didn't fall into any pits.
Oh, that's true actually. Yeah, nearly falling into pits, diving out of the way of pits falling.
I mean, I would say spectacularly diving out of the way.
Beautifully done. Absolutely. I've been thinking about how RPGs, specifically OSR games, are kind of a survival horror. Like how they're kind of like you have to outthink the dungeon, but more in a kind of, it is actually quite bloodthirsty. But anyway, so all of these things are happening, and I've been kind of, because you've been in dungeons and you've been also in the the classic tavern, the Eternal Rest tavern. I've been thinking about how all of this stuff like fits together, and trying to make it into this campaign. And the thing I did was I fired up Hex Kit, and it gives you, so it's basically it gives you hexagons on a map, and you can customize how big this map is and all that sort of stuff. And then you get these preset tiles, and then you basically like paint with these tiles across these hexes, right? And they are just detailed enough so that you look at the tile and you know exactly what it is. But they're abstract enough to the point that they aren't exactly so precisely telling you exactly what they are, so that there's still then room for creativity. So I've had my on my second screen I've had a Google Doc open, and on my first screen I've had Hex Kit, and I've been like painting with this and creating these hex maps, and this is for the overworld, I should say, specifically. And in this overworld, I'm able to paint like, oh, I'm going to put a forest here, and oh, I can put grasslands here and hills here, and here's where a ruined castle is.
So how does that? So does that help you as like? Because obviously, there, being a role playing game, the chances of us visiting
Any of
the
that
forest
stuff.
or the ruins, or probably like
Low.
less than 10% chance probably ever visiting that.
Yep.
So like, as someone who has previously said struggles imagining, like, I guess that if you're able to press a button and say, oh, there's a ruins there, that is kind of doing some of the heavy work for you in terms of like building the world that we're trying to exist in, because then you can go, well, why is that ruins? Why is it there?
Yeah, so it digs into the creative part of me that I actually find interesting, right? So I can't draw for toffee. I can't. No. I'm so bad at drawing, like upsettingly. Do you know what I mean? like to the point of like, if you saw one of my drawings and it was maybe associated with a lunatic from a Lovecraft novel, you'd think, that is what they would draw.
That's the scrawl of some psychopath on their cell wall.
It's very. So it takes that element away from me, but the creativity that I like is the world building aspect of like, why is there a castle here? Like, what are they like? Why have in the dungeons that we've been in so far, why have the enemies that we've been up against, why are the creatures that we've been up against, why have they been there? Like, what is it about the world that has led to this point? Like, I find it so, it's just that shortcut to the creative bit that I really, really like.
I think it seems just like kind of like almost like an inspiration generator.
Yeah.
Because I remember when the first one we did was Dread back in the day, and I ran that one. So I decided to come up with like an original story, and I struggled with it. I can't remember where the original inspiration came from. I ended up doing an alien thing on a spaceship.
Oh yeah.
And I don't remember
where
exactly.
does the inspiration for that come from, I wonder?
I don't know. I don't remember what made me want to do that. But once I got the idea of a spaceship, suddenly, okay, with a spaceship, it's going to probably be an alien. Okay, now I've got an alien on a spaceship. What's the next step? My next thought was, okay, then why have I got three people who don't know each other on this ship?
Yeah.
And then that builds and it just layers on top of it. But I wouldn't get any of that without that original idea of the spaceship. So it sounds like for this, what you've got here is something that's generating that base level that you can build on. And obviously, the fact that you've got a forest doesn't mean there's a castle there, but because there is the forest, you think, oh, I could put a castle around here.
Yeah.
And now there's a castle here. Oh, there also could be ruins. And it just feeds off as a...
And it also goes deeper. It goes into the like, what's in the forest? Who uses the forest?
Yeah.
What are the trees in the forest? Are they like like, are they just like a few oaks, or is this a living forest? Like, is it a bandit hideout? Like all of these, and you think about these things, and it really is it really forces you to actually, having the role-playing game set and having done a couple of adventures now, that was enough to be the point where I was like, I'm gonna, put this together and write this and all that sort of stuff, because it is something I've been writing. I've been tinkering around with playing with, like, creating RPGs and stuff like that. I've had a lot of ideas beforehand, but what I wanted to do was find the right role-playing game for us, and then figure out how I could then build out a story based on that.
But Pete, what you're saying, it reminds me, like, I'm doing a lot of research at the moment, part of my job in terms of narratives and worlds, and particularly maps. And I've come across that expression of Tolkien's mountains, where if you open Lord of the Rings, you've got landmarks and landscapes there and places which you never ever go to. And they're an example of what is called extradiegetic maps. They're called extradiegetic maps. So that is parts of a map that you never encountered, but they're there because they help with that story world building. Mm-hmm. It's only when you encounter them that they become intradiegetic. And you hear those stories where people would draw islands on maps to encourage people to go and explore, even if there was nothing there. I mean, I mentioned earlier about Atlantis. What is that but an example of something that is extradiegetic? Yeah. It's not about going and finding Atlantis. It's about that desire to want and go and find it. And it makes you feel like you're in.
And a lot of this stuff is very. So I've done a bit of writing, a fair bit of writing for video games and stuff like that. And one of the things a lot of the stuff that works really well is this thing called door ajar narrative, where it kind of uses that idea of, if you place a mountain somewhere and you give it a name, suddenly then you open the door just enough for a player to go, what's that? And you probably don't know. And the thing with RPGs I've found so far is that that's the same, right? Like, there have been moments in the stories that we've been running so far where you've been like, oh, what's this about? Or like, why is that there? And like, I've sat there and gone, I wonder what it could be about. And I've been sat there like, I wonder what it could be about, because
oh my god,
it could be anything. But then there's that thing, and you give your players just enough to the point where it's like, we're going to go and have a look, and you're like, great, let's figure out what this thing is then. Like, and it's really exciting, and that's part of that. Again, it's part of that nice balance of that. Again, this Hex Kit really like leans into, of giving you just enough information with which to be inspired to then take you on and let you do more creativity, more inspiration, and more and actually make something that is like really fulfilling.
For you, it's maps. For me, it's maps, but it's also music. So when we're doing the RPG, I have Spotify in the background in my ears. So
do you?
Yeah, what? Of course I do. I listen to something that's kind of like I listen to something that's thematic. It's not like I'm listening to a podcast and I've got you on mute.
Oh, so this is why when you did the recap, you had no idea why anything was happening, because you're like,
we're in the middle of a fight. You know, this is true. We're in the middle of a fight scene, and I put there's a playlist on Spotify which is like fantasy board gaming, and I had it on shuffle. But for some weird reason, just at one point, like, you know, I didn't realise this, but Spotify, when it gets to the end of a playlist, it just picks another playlist. Yeah. And suddenly I had Waterloo from ABBA in my ears when we were in this storming mine with all these hobgoblins and goblins. And it just felt right. And I left it on.
That's funny.
Amazing.
I text my wife about the eggs. About the eggs.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I said because she pointed out that I mentioned that Pete may have had a response from the Eggs Council. So she said, "Keep your phone on you. I want you to tell me as soon as you know what the Egg Council have said."
Okay. Yep.
Okay. Just before I start, Dan, you're editing this show this week. How good are you with the bleep button?
Let's find out.
Let's find out. So I text her. I said, eggs should be kept in box and in fridge. The British Egg Council say so. Her reply, no way. F*** that. I said, it's official. Then she said, When baking, eggs need to be at room temperature, so you'd have to wait ages to make a cake. And they would crack when you boil. This is madness. We eat eggs not in the fridge all the time, and we are fine. Not doing it.
Oh my word! Oh, I feel like somebody else is going to be writing a letter to the Egg Council.
Dear Sarah.
Hello, Dan Frost here. Haven't done this in a while. That was Staying In with, obviously, me, Dan Frost, Sam Turner, Kris Darby, and of course, Peter Willington. Thanks for checking out the show, and if you like what you heard, please go ahead and subscribe, stick a review or rating on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. And also tell your friends, family, colleagues, or just people you pass on the street if you are so inclined. You can also still find our board game food pairing video on YouTube, and you can check out our specially cultivated tea-themed playlists on Spotify. Just search for Staying In and select See All Profiles, and you'll find all that wonderful content waiting for you. As always, you can check us out on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, and we'll be back in 2 weeks with another episode for you. So until then, goodbye.